In the meantime, thank you all for joining. My name is Pete Neubig, CEO of VPM Solutions, and we own a marketplace that connects the property management and industries with remote team members. So, if you're looking for remote team members or getting ready to hire remote team members, give us a shout. We appreciate that. And so let's. I'm just going to talk a little bit about our hiring processes and about hiring processes in general. And if we can get Peter on, great. But I'll make this super quick because we do only want to keep it around 20 minutes, 23 minutes to be exact. That's the amount of remote team members that we had at Empire Industries, handled all of our property management tasks. And our property managers graduate to asset managers, reduce churn from our clients, reduce churn from our team, and also elevate our property managers to asset managers. And actually, everybody was happier, and so we were able to retain more talent. And I think the big thing here is how do we attract great talent, and how do we keep that great talent? So first piece is you have to do some pre-work on recruiting great talent. First thing is what are what are the values that you have as a person or as a company? What are the type of people you're looking for? That's really important. What happens is most people hire based on, skills or, how much experience. And what studies have found is that 89% of people lose their job because of attitude, not because of attitude versus skill based. And so getting the right person. Yes, Tyler. I still can hear you, Pete. Tyler, give me a second here, and I will allow to talk. Go ahead, Tyler. Yep. If you guys have any questions, you can throw it in the Q&A. And I thought Tyler raised his hand, so all right. All right. So I guess Tyler doesn't have a question. No problem. Pauline, if you can remove him off the deal here, that'd be great. So anyway, hiring on attitude, hiring based on your attitude. So how do you find those core values? I'm a big fan of a book called Hiring for Attitude by Mark Murphy. It's right here. He's got basically lots of questions you can ask yourself and your team to determine what those attitudes are. We are developing a course inside of VPM where you can take the course and get your top three attitudes on that course, and then you can find people who have that same attitude. So Peter's still trying to get in here. So the first thing is make sure that you have the right what your values are, and then ask questions when you are interviewing to determine if those people have your values. I'm not a big fan of, especially on low level jobs or startup jobs, on hiring for a lot of experience because I want somebody who's coachable and teachable. So what we do is we find the right attitude. We make sure each role in our business has a job description. The more we know about that job description, the more bullet points we have, or the more defined it is, then the better set of rules we have for that job description, and we can find the right person for that job description. And more importantly, we can find the right personality profile, whether you're into DISC or you're into, Myers-Briggs, whatever it is. But each role in your organization should be detailed. It should have the right personality profile, and it should have key performance indicators. So, getting the right person um, by through attitude is akin to getting the right person on the bus or on the boat. Having a job description is equivalent to having the instructions on how to run the seat on the boat. Um, Getting the disc is equivalent to getting the right person in that seat, right? And then the KPI is getting to row in the right direction. So before you even look to start recruiting, you want to have your core values, your job description, and your disc all set up. Like you want to understand that. You should also have an org chart of what the organization looks like today, and what does it look like for the next five new hires, and what does it look like when the company is done. If you're planning to go to 15 different markets, 2,000 units, what does that org chart look like? And so once you have this, now you have a good understanding of the type of person that you want in your business. So how do you recruit for that? Right. So it's you have to have a recruiting process and a hiring process, just like you do for your lease renewal process, your onboarding process, your move-in process, your move-out process, right? And so for for somebody in, if you're going to hire somebody, as a virtual team member, right, then a recruiting process could be, you know, posting a job on VPM as an example, as a recruiting, right? So let's get how do we get it out there, right? But then how do you post a job? You post a job description, or do you post a job posting that's going to speak to people, that is going to speak to them on their attitude and speak to them on their personality profile, right? Just having a job posting that looks a little different than than the normal like bullet points is going to attract the right type of person. So you're trying to attract the type of people with your job posting. Oh, okay. We got a question here. How would you recommend getting out of the day-to-day operation as a solo operator with low revenue to focus solely on growth? Any key hire position recommended or tips? So I was there, right? I mean, I had a business partner. We didn't have any team members yet. And the first thing we did is we created an org chart of all the, basically an accountability chart or org chart of all the things we did. And we put his name or my name in every box. And so, Tyler, you don't want to just have one box and put everything that you do in there. You actually want to create all the job roles that you have, right? So if you're the leasing, the accounting, the assistant property manager, the property manager, the utilities, the onboarding, you just kind of put all those job roles in there. The next thing I would do is, because you're a solopreneur, write down all the stuff you do. Do like a time study. And what's going to happen is you're going to find there's a lot of things that you really love doing, and there's things you don't like doing. The things you don't like doing, you can literally create a job role from that. And then I would hire a remote team member. So, for example, if you want to focus on growth, you love marketing, you love sales, you like making those cold calls, but you don't like the tenant calls. You don't like getting receiving tenant calls. You don't like doing maintenance. Create a job role for that. Depending on how many units you have, if you're smaller, you can have somebody do two or three job roles, three or four job roles, right? Then you teach them the job roles, and then they take those job roles over, and then the way you manage them is you still have to manage them, right? You can't just give it to them and abdicate and let them, hey, I'm done now. Thanks. I've been so busy doing that. I don't like doing it anymore. Good. Thank you. Good luck, right? What you need to do is you still need to have a weekly structure with them. You have to have a meeting with them. The meeting has to have an agenda, has to have structure, and you have to have KPIs. And the meeting structure should go something like this. Um, Tell me something good, then give me the KPIs. Let's review the KPIs. If they're red, then we'll move them to a challenges list. If they're green, then you get an attaboy. Let's talk about tasks that were due last week. Then let's talk about challenges, and then tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 what your stress level. You find the right, you basically hire for that. If somebody has like 11 KPIs, that's too many. Three is kind of the most. And you might have a few more things you want to look at, but look at those three, solve those first, and move on to two or three different ones. So hopefully that answered your question a little bit. But as a sole operator, do a time study, find the things you don't love doing, and create job roles from them. Get super detailed. Determine what the KPIs are. Determine the disc for that. If you find that your job role has half a D, half a S, half a C, half a I, you have to split that up, and you have to find two different people. There's very few people that are all four personality profiles. Most people have one or two that they're high in, and then low in the others. Example, like you don't want to have somebody who's accounting and somebody who is sales, completely different personality profiles. You do need to do a little bit of research on DISC. All right, but great question. Um, Key position hire, like a key position to recommend, it's really just the stuff that you really don't like doing, and get that off to somebody else. And if you can hire remote, it's going to be a lot cheaper than hiring somebody local. And of course, you got a much bigger, because it's global. You have a much bigger pool of people to choose from. Just make sure they have good internet, because that obviously from Peter here has bad internet. Doesn't matter how great the person is, if they don't have good internet, they can't get on online, then they're not going to be able to help you. All right. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to throw them in. So now you have to have a hiring process, right? So okay, so I have a recruiting, I find people, and then what's the hiring process? And so for us at VPM, and we basically took this from the Empire days. It's we don't just go and, like, if you apply, we don't interview you. Like that is, if you want to waste a lot of hours and a lot of time, you're going to interview everybody that applies, right? We don't want to do that. We want to weed the weak out, is what we say. So the first thing that we do is obviously is we make them take a disc profile test before we even meet with them. And if their disc doesn't match up with what we're looking for, I don't interview them unless they have a bunch of experience. This is like kind of like, how every rule has, every rule has like an exception. This is the exception, right? If somebody is like, an IS and I'm looking for an SC, but they have lots of experience in the role that I'm trying to hire, I may still interview them. But I'm a huge fan of disc. So if they don't have the disc profile and they don't have a lot of experience, because what that tells me is even they have a lot of experience even in a personality trait that they're not really high on. It tells me that they can conform, and they know that either that or they work for a company that ran their business a little bit differently. So that's where I'm a little kind of trying to figure that out. So what I do is I've make them take a disc test first, right? Now, if they don't take the disc test, then if you're not willing to do a little bit of work, a little, like, go through a little bit of red tape to get a job, what are you going to do when you have the job? So I just that's the first thing. The second thing we do is we make them take a test, a course. So VPM Solutions, we have like 40 courses. Even if you're US based, I make you take some courses. We have these property management 101 courses. I go ahead and we make them do that, and then we take a course. And the reason why we do that, again, it's one that they're interested in. They're interested in the material. Two, they can retain material. And three, they're like, because they have to take a course, they have to take a test, they have to pass the test. And so if you have any kind of testing, there's something called guerrilla testing. It's a pay for, but you can create your own test. There's a bunch of tests that you can have them take. Highly recommend that anybody who's going to come work for you, they should take a course, at least one, and pass a test that they have to pass. So that's the next thing. So we haven't been able to be able to give them a course or a test on personality just yet. Like I said, we are developing that. So the first thing we do is disc, then we make them take certifications as a way for us to know that, hey, these guys are going to do whatever it takes to do that job. Then and only then, we then grade them on certain aspects. With a virtual assistant, it's very easy. Without the virtual assistant, not so easy. So we at least have them do those two things before we'll schedule an interview. All right, here. So Monica, let's see. At 130 properties, I have a local operation manager, which in essence is my other me. She's part-time. Then I have somebody overseas that is doing admin work. However, I find this is more of a doer than a think outside the box or seeing beyond what's in front of her. I also have an overseas part-time maintenance coordinator. Do I need to replace my admin for a stronger one? At what point do I need a full-time maintenance coordinator? I'm currently at the salesperson, also the PM. At some point, I want to step away from being the PM, but I know baby steps. Yeah. I'm reluctant to hiring somebody locally because of the expense, but it's frustrating to have to be going to the office constantly. Any feedback on how I can do better? Well, at 130 properties, my first thought is that you don't need office space. So if you have an office, you probably don't need office space at 130 units. Um, if your admin is if it sounds like your admin is a doer, which is not a bad thing. You're the thinker, you're the one who makes the decisions, you're making the money from the neck up, and you do need somebody to do certain things. How does she do them? Does she do them well? Does Are she hitting her KPIs? Is she making a lot of mistakes? Is she, detailed when you need a detailed person? So if she's filling that role pretty good. As far as a full-time maintenance coordinator, um, I think we had 984 properties, but oh man, I think we had a one maintenance corner for every 250 properties, and we had about 56% of our portfolio would put a maintenance ticket in every month. So I don't know. I think that was a little high, but I think the industry average is around that 50%. So at 130 properties, you're probably getting, 70 tickets a month. So I don't, you could have that one person if you want to do full time. You could have that one person also do onboarding and also do turns and also do utility changes. So you can have them do um, multiple things at one time. Um, and if you want to get rid of your admin and just have a full-time maintenance person, you can do that. Um, Hopefully I answered your question. If not, feel free to throw something back in there. Phil asked the question. I'm struggling with the concept of growth because we're beyond capacity personally. I have a VA in Mexico, but I don't have a good way for that VA to answer and make phone calls using a US number. Are there any phone service or providers you recommend to help in this area? Then, of course, we'd have to train with how to handle calls and scripts, etc. If anybody has a good phone system, please throw it in the chat to help Phil. Um, I use Ring Central. I think you can provide a US number with Ring Central so that it does look like they're calling from the US. You'd also It does work. Ring Central does work. So Phil, I would look at Ring Central as a solution. Obviously, if you're going to hire somebody to make phone calls in the disk profile, you want them to be a high I in the disk profile. Um, what we've done in at Empire, which was done, what I think pretty successfully, is we had local salespeople. So for Texas anyway, so I had people in Houston and Dallas that were the salespeople, but we had an assistant BDM, and that person took on all the leads. They maintained the CRM. They scheduled all the meetings. They answered all the calls, and they got all the paperwork for the salespeople. Salespeople don't like details. They don't like doing certain things. They love talking on the phone. They love selling. So what we found is when we were able to hire an assistant BDM for our BDM ended up taking off, and they were closing more deals. APM help is coming with a receptionist AI that will feed from your PMS. Okay, well, thank you for that. I did not know that. That's cool. APM help is a great company. So I thank you for the questions, guys. I really appreciate it, and I am sorry, but Peter, was affected by the Kerrville floods, and I, it's a huge loss of life. I think there's like 80 plus people passed away, a lot of young people, a lot of children. So we're gonna let Peter slide on this one. Hopefully, I gave you guys. Hopefully, you got a little something out of this. Um, yeah, Phil, if you go to VPM Solutions, you can create a free profile and you can actually take a test, disc course there, and you know the you can it's free, so you can take your disc. We also have links to a bunch of web pages that we created to help you with disc. So all right, guys, I'm going to let this one go here. I do appreciate your time, and I'm going to share my screen real quick so that if you guys do want to get on the next The next one, we are having Tiffany Rosenbaum. Um, she is a dynamo. If you don't know Tiffany, she has a property management firm in multiple markets. She also owns a maintenance firm. She's also one of these big thinkers on online, and she's a great person. I've been knowing her for many years, and there's going to be lots of insights from Tiffany. All right, everybody. If you have any other questions, feel free. I'll stay on, but thank you so much.